Yo guys, what is going on? Got a Jelly Force deck profile for you guys. So with BT9, we got a couple of new indirect support cards for the UlforceVeedramon deck. So if you know me, you know I love me some good Ulforce, and if you're looking for a really fun, kind of just like not meta deck that you can mess around with the locals or something like that, look no further, I got you covered with everyone's favorite blue boy. So let's go ahead and get started for the eggs, just playing the simple 4 copies of the BT2 Demi Vmon. I don't really think you need more than 4 eggs. You're pretty much either OTKing your opponent or you lose the game if you're not set up properly. But this one's important because you get plus 1,000 when this Digimon unsuspends during the unsuspend phase. Now I know there is an UlforceVeedramon with jamming, but you're not really trying to utilize that one. More so, you're trying to utilize the Sec Attack plus 1 UlforceVeedramon. So this definitely helps to get over big things in security. So for the actual main deck for the level 3 Digimon, of course playing lots of Vmons, playing the 4 copies of the Ulforce starter deck Vmon, as well as 3 copies of EX1 Vmon. These ones are the best ones, seeing as this is a 1-stack deck. Both the Inheriteds are really solid. This one lets you draw a card if you have 7 or fewer cards in hand, which of course is not once per turn, so sometimes if you swing with Ulforce multiple times, you can draw a couple of cards. This one is a once per turn copy, but it's just basically when the Digimon becomes unsuspended, gain a memory. So of course being able to unsuspend with Ulforce, you already gain a memory, and then this one gets you +2, which is really important because sometimes you're playing like a V-Tamer tie from your hand or something to finish off the game. This one's also really good. We've seen him play in armor, but you can actually utilize the main effect where your turn you can warp into an Ulforce. That comes up sometimes if you're playing against like a 1-stack like a Grandis or like a Wargrey X or like Metal Gar X or whatever 1-stack deck it is. If they've basically taking out most of your security, they got a big guy on field, you can bring this guy out, maybe Hammer Spark, go to 4, warp into an Ulforce, and close out the game from there. So that's it for the Vmons. For the other level 3s, of course, as the name suggests, I am playing 3 copies of Jellymon. I don't really think you need 4. This card's really good for the main effect. Primarily just once per turn when you play a blue tamer, you trigger draw 1. So it's really nice with stuff like Davis and Rena, where you're already getting a +1. So you Digivolve this turn 1, you promote it, and you play Davis, you get a +1 effect, trigger draw 1, or Rena, get a +1, trigger draw 1. So it's really good. Or like V-Tamer tie, you get basically most of your tamers you get 2 draws off of. So it helps the consistency a lot. Of course, this deck's gimmick is also being at 7 or more cards or 8 cards in hand, so that definitely isn't necessary. The inherited effect doesn't come up too much, I don't think. It's one in effect adds a card to your hand. You return one of your opponent's Digimon, level 3 Digimon, to their hand. The Veedramon in this deck already basically does the same thing, except without any sort of restrictions. It's basically just if you have 8 or more, you bounce 1. Versus whether you draw 1, you bounce 1. So this is cool, just being able to out floodgates and stuff, but you're pretty much using it for the main effect. And the last 2 rookies here, just 2 copies of Strabimon. You are playing a ton of blue tamers in this deck, so this is a nice Digimon you can play from your hand that the other ones you pretty much want to evolve, but this one playing from your hand is nice. As a turn 1 or 2 search. Being able to search your one of Lobomon as well is important for just killing your opponent. Then for the level 4s, a pretty simple lineup, just the 4 copies of Veedramon. This is the one I was talking about. So of course, being a Veedramon is synergized with the whole deck. It's got the inherited effect of when attacking, if you've got 8 or more cards in your hand, you just bounce a level 3. That's not once per turn, so being able to bounce multiple level 3 Digimon is really crazy, preventing your opponent from going wide. So of course, again, you need 8 or more cards, so that's why you got a lot of draw and consistency cards. And then one of my favorite versions to run one of my favorite level 4s to run in this deck is actually the starter deck Cordramon. So playing 4 copies of this. This card's really broken. First of all, because it's got a security effect. So there's a lot of times where you're bricking on cards, and then your opponent swings and hits this. You get a free level 4, so you can evolve this into an UlforceVeedramon as well. UlforceVeedramon's got jamming, so you can just start swinging, drawing some cards off that. So trigger draw 2 is nice. And then of course, if you're bricking too, if you got a Davis, you can just pass your opponent back to 3, draw 2 cards. and then just put on pressure from there. So I think this is like all you need. Your perfect one stack is like including the Veedramon, so this is just like supplemental to that. It's like fine. And then lastly, just one copy of Lobomon to be able to kill your opponent. So you know, you typically you're suspending your tamers, but you're playing Davis and stuff like that, and sometimes you just have like an extra tamer that doesn't really do anything. You sometimes need to go into a hybrid with. So that's it for the 4s. For the 5s, playing the 4 copies of the starter deck, Veedramon, and then 1 copy of the BT2. This one's definitely the better one, or I guess it's like they're situationally like better in different situations. But generally, like you want to like high roll with this deck, and like yeah, jamming is really safe. This deck loses to security control, and like any deck that has like Mastamon, like any deck that has really strong security, this deck just like can't deal with. I'm not playing like a delicate plan pack. You can if you want. Maybe if you want to like actually tech this out for like being able to play like an event or something. I'm just basically playing this for fun. So I think this like is fine. This one, jamming is like cool. You're not usually swinging with this. You're usually just hiding in the back. And then if you've got 8 or more cards in hand, it's got security attack +1. So being able to like swing with all force, check 2 with this, unsuspend the all force, check 2 more. It basically reduces the number of tamers you need to be able to kill your opponent. So like assuming your opponent has 5 security, right? If you swing once with all force, you're checking 2. Use a tamer to unsuspend, checking 2 more. Tamer to unsuspend, checking 2 more. So you typically either need like 2 tamers plus a game finisher like Lobo or Omni, or like 3 tamers. Versus if you like were playing the old school version where you're just playing like this Veedramon, you actually need like 5 tamers to be able to like unsuspend 5 times to kill them in 1 turn. And you're basically just high rolling and killing them in 1 turn. It is at least the way I built this deck. So that's it for the level 5s. Pretty simple lineup there. And then for level 6s, just of course playing the 4 copies of UlforceVeedramon. I tested out the starter deck one as well as the UlforceVeedramon 0 promo. Neither of those are super amazing. The starter deck one is pretty decent. But you basically just only ever want to see this one. Like I said, that one's cool. It bounces like a level 4 Digimon. It can swing twice sometimes. Which, like, I mean, if you've got the Veedramon, that's like 4 checks, but it also costs 4 is like the main thing, so that's really unfortunate. This one, I think you just pretty much always like prefer to have. Like, this is your Jesmon of the deck. This is like the thing that will kill your opponent. Got 2 really cool effects, still very relevant effects, even all the way in BT9. This card, when your blue tamer becomes suspended, you can unsuspend this Digimon. That is not once per turn. You can do that as many times as you want. The effect that is once per turn is if it becomes unsuspended during the main phase, you gain a memory. So, of course, you can only gain the memory once per turn. But you're typically, like, if you're at 3, you're Digivolving this for 3, you'll swing, unsuspend, gain a memory, unsuspend, gain a memory off the, like, the Vmon, maybe, or you got a Hammer Spark. So you can typically always go back on up to, like, 2 to 3 memory. So this card is just crazy. Being 11,000 is, like, its only real downside. Of course, that's why I'm playing, like, the Demi Vmon, like stuff to boost it like that, like the V-Tamer Tie Arena and stuff. So you can typically, like, on the first swing, you usually, like, swing this. You like suspend Arena, plus 1,000, unsuspend, plus 1,000 off X. So typically your first swing is 13, which is like good enough against most decks. Against like Alphamon, it's really tough because there's not really a reasonable way to get this guy to like 17. So you kind of just have to worry and hope they don't have like a Oryukin in their security. And then last for the Digimon, just 1 copy of Omnimon to be able to close out games. For the Tamers and Option cards, I'm actually playing, I think, like something like 20 Tamers and Option cards. So quite a lot to go through. First of all, 2 copies of Davis. This is, of course, one of your memory setters. Of course, being able to get the +1 is nice. This is really good early game. Even though you can't suspend him, like, to trigger the all-force effect, I still think Davis is definitely worth playing. Like, this card's it's just going to be good until the end of time, being able to start at 3 and getting the +1. And then I am actually playing the 1 new copy. If you're wondering how you say this guy's name, it is Kiyoshiro Higashimitarai. This guy, I just like to call him Kyo. So Kyo, he's also a memory tamer. So start of your turn, you set your memory 3. And then if you got an attack with a Jellymon or a Digimon that's level 5 or higher, so it's the same like stipulations like Hero. So either swing with like your Veedramon, like your Veedramon, All Force, or just like a Jellymon, which you're usually not swinging with Jellymon, but like it can come up. You get to draw 1 if you got 7 or fewer cards in hand. So this is cool. It's a memory tamer that you can suspend to trigger All Force. I think 1 is fine because it's not really like good late game. If you made an All Force stack and like you somehow only have 6 cards in hand, it's very rarely happens, but that's fine for this. It's better early game. versus like I wouldn't play like 2 to 3 this, because then it just ends up being like a dead memory tamer. At least Davis you get to search off of. This is like one of, it's like fine. I don't honestly don't think you're like once you're at 8 cards, you're like never going below 8. You usually have to like double Hammer Spark or something to like get cards out of your hand just to go back on to like the below 7 threshold just to like draw again. So this card is just like cool. I don't think it's actually like ultra necessary. So that's the memory tamers, and then for the other, like, so this is like these are like the non-suspendable tamers. The suspendable tamers, Kyo, and then 3 copies of Sora Joe, I still think is like really broken. Being able to trash stuff, starting with 5 memories, is really good. I think 3's enough. I was playing 4, but a lot of times, like, you don't have like a dedicated way to just keep trashing cards from your play. Like, you're not playing blue hybrid, so like you could probably even get away with like 2 of this. I think 3's fine, just, again, because a lot of decks are playing, like, Searchers and stuff. They'll hard play, like, a Bokomon or, like, a Kokuwagamon or the rookie Searchers, you know what I mean? So this is fine. Of course, just being able to suspend it whenever to trigger Ulforce is good. The other suspendable tamers, I think probably the better ones, like the actual direct Ulforce support, is going to be your 4 copies of Rina. So Rina is, of course, good because she's like a Searcher. On play, you get to add a V card. So it searches like any of your line, your Vmons, Veedramons, Arrow, as well as Ulforce himself. And then you just get to suspend to boost a blue Digimon by 1,000. So it's cool. You can actually just do it to any blue Digimon. So sometimes it's like relevant. Maybe if you're beating over like level 3s and 4s and stuff. And then the other V-Tamer is 2 copies of V-Tamer Tai. I think 2's enough. You actually like don't promote that much, so like the first, like having Veedramon to trigger draw 1 doesn't come up except like late game. So you're usually like you're like setting up your tamers, you make an Ulforce, you're drawing a bunch of cards, and then like you'll play this for 2 since you've gained memory off of Ulforce and stuff, and then just like immediately use this effect to like get an extra swing off Ulforce. I think 2's fine off this. I'd rather have like Rina early game and like Tai later game. So this lineup was fine. So that's it for the blue tamers. And just keep in mind, I did want to mention one thing. So I've seen some like people asking about like an interaction with like, let's say Kyo plus like this Vmon. So let's say like we've got like this setup. So, like, let's say you have this scenario where you've got like an Ulforce stack with like Vmon plus Kyo, and then like let's say you have exactly 7 in hand. So like let's say you swing security, and then both of these trigger, so you can like resolve them in any order. So since I have 7 or fewer cards in hand, I will trigger draw 1 off Vmon. So I'm gonna resolve this one first. I'll draw 1. I'm gonna get 8 cards in hand, and then now Kyo says that you know, you attack with a Digimon that has Jellymon in his name or is level 5 or higher, but since you don't have 7 or fewer anymore, you can't actually suspend this to trigger draw 1. So it ends up like you like it meets the trigger, but you can't resolve it because now you currently have 8 cards in hand. Same thing would happen if you like you're at 7 and you swing this, you suspend this, draw 1, go to 8, and then you just don't drop the Vmon. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you're at 6, like it's fine because then you can resolve them in either order. Like draw this, go to 7. Suspend this, go to 8, so that's fine. But just keep in mind like the interaction between those cards. So anyways, that's going to do it for the tamers. And lastly, just for the option cards, playing the simple lineup, just consistency cards, 3 memory boost, and then just the broken option cards like triple Hammer Spark plus the 1 Ice Wall. That's pretty much it for the like defensive cards, the defensive option cards, and consistency and stuff. But anyways, that's gonna do it for the Ulforce, the Jelly Force profile, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I'd highly recommend testing this deck out. It's really fun. I do really love that a lot of decks in Digimon stay maybe not relevant, but like they're playable throughout the game's history. Like the game's only been around 2 years, but this deck is really old. Like this is from BT2, but strategy is still somewhat viable. But anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.